Now let's talk about this with Peter Mathews. Peter, a political analyst who teaches political science at Cypress College, joining us this hour from Los Angeles. A pleasure to have you here on the show. We'll talk about the president's tweet attacking Democrats here, painting them all with the same brush as anti-ICE, as anti-police. Talking points that you see there that certainly play well to his base, but the question here, does it gain traction to those possible swing voters as he, and the right, quite frankly, continue to push this narrative of a radicalized left?
It holds on to his right-wing base, who's only like 35% of the voters. Let me give you some numbers real quickly, George. 60% of Americans they think immigrants are a positive, net positive to the United States, and they want a diverse country. And 60% think there should be a path to citizenship. Only 17% want to decrease even legal immigration. Given those numbers, no, this is not going to help them to hammer the Democrats in this negative way. I don't think so.
To your point, you're suggesting that the numbers are lower, the tail wagging the dog in that sense. But
yes.
given the protests that we've seen today, the topic of immigration certainly front and center. Do you surmise this puts any pressure on President Trump? I mean, just look, Peter, we're showing our viewers a map. So many cities across this nation, just protests throughout the streets of the United States. Do you think that this translates into actual votes come the midterm election?
Absolutely, George. I've got numbers on that also. In fact, I attended one of those protests to see firsthand what people were thinking. And it was quite amazing because if you look at the numbers, the protests reflect the fact that most people are going to vote this fall, and 60% of Democrats, 90% of Democrats are going to vote for a Senate Democratic candidate because of the concern about what's going on in the Supreme Court. But the protesters were also not just talking about the court. They were talking about why it's human rights. It's a real human rights issue. And most of the people that I saw there were totally for giving the immigrants a chance and stopping the child separation. And I'm sure that if we're looking at the polls across America, the same thing, the majority of Americans are totally against the child separation that Trump has engendered. And that's a real important situation, because if you look at 66% of America who's against the child separation, that's a huge chunk of people. And that's not going to budge. And the moderates or the swing voters are on the side of those who believe in human rights and keeping the children together with their parents and giving them a path to citizenship eventually.
Look, as President Trump continues to narrow down his choice for the Supreme Court, he says that he doesn't plan to talk about Roe v. Wade, nor does he plan to discuss issues of LGBT rights. The question with this president and his track record, his background from what we've seen during this part of his term, the first part of his term here, do you take him at his word?
I think he's going to try to avoid that issue, because if he does not avoid it, he might lose two pro-choice Republican senators, that's Senator Collins of Maine and Senator Murkowski of Alaska. If those two women vote against the nominee, then the president will have a difficult time getting that nominee through. But it is true the Republicans have, generally speaking, by numbers, a majority of the Senate, 51-49, and if they all stuck together, they can get this through. And hopefully some Democrats don't defect and vote for the nominee. There are a couple of Democrats who are, I think, either pro-life or they're very shaky on the issue. They could go either way. And we have to see how that plays out. It's very close right now. And I do believe the president really wants to get this nominee through quickly. That's why he met with Justice Kennedy. I think they worked out a deal where Kennedy would resign right away so they can get this passed before the election, which might end up with a Democratic Senate, possibly. That's what he's concerned about.
All right, we'll have to see how it plays out. Peter Mathews, thank you for your time today.
My pleasure, George. Thank you.